Florida prices are dropping. Yes, that's true. The market is shifting, but what is actually in sight? That's what we are going to talk in this video. So I'm not talking about just looking at on the internet, looking at some articles, what are the stories, what the media is writing, but I'm actually trying to release some of the data in our MLS, what we are seeing, the price drops, or what as a realtor I feel what is happening in the market. South Florida market has been hot throughout the time in the pandemic. Not just the South Florida, you must have heard almost everywhere the same similar story. The main reason was the low inventory, and at this moment the things are changing because the interest rate as soon as went up, the buyers started thinking of, and they have started back out. The same time it happened in the summer, so summer is kind of hot consider. However, it started happening in May, June, which is where a lot of people had already made a decision if they are moving for the school reasons. So people who are holding the decisions are the one who are not very, very desperate. And this is like a little bit of confusing phase. If you have been following this market in a COVID time, when they started the COVID in March, almost for 3-4 months, it was very confusing. The sellers were scared. The buyers were thinking the market will drop. Let's wait for it. I had my own personal buyers, local buyers, they literally postponed their decision just to see where the market is heading. And same thing right now is happening. And that is one of the reasons you saw in May, a lot of media stories have started telling is the loan application has reduced because majority people who are buying house, it's definitely they want to see where the market is heading, and they're not making decision right away, not applying, even though someone liked the property, but they say, okay, let's wait for another month or another 2 months. Where this is going, we want to check it out. And that's the confusion phase made this loan application lowered. So one thing I'll tell you as a realtor, in the pandemic market, we had crazy over expectation from the sellers. And those over expectation were started building up, I guess, in around 2020, because they saw in the neighborhoods, the properties are going way above the value they thought about it or imagine about it. See, before the pandemic, when anybody wants to sell property, what the realtor would do, they will bring the market value and comparison, that's called the comparable, and explain them. It's called, in our terms, the terminology is CMA. So basically they explain, okay, this property was sold in this price, this property was sold in that price, so this could be your value. And that's how they explain to the sellers, and they come on the ground that, okay, this is what number I want, because everybody loves their house. That house is like Victoria house, compared to the neighbor house. So you want to get the best money out of it, and there is nothing wrong in it. Like, you have so much feelings towards, where you have spent so many years there, and you want to make best out of your property or your investment, because this is not just a house, it's an investment from your pocket, which you have done for years. So after 6 months, the pandemic started, people started realizing that, oh wow, the properties are going so high, so let's put it in the market. Even though they didn't have a second plan where to go, but still people started doing it. They would put the closing like 60 to 90 days, asking to the buyers. Buyers were desperate because the inventory was low. In that confusion phase, inventory went very, very low. There was a time we had only 1 week of inventory, which is nothing for one city. If you talk in one city, there's so many zip codes, okay? So it's the diameter or the population growth is not very little in the South Florida area. So even though you don't even consider people moving in, okay, you just consider local people finding the property, whoever lives on rental, they want to buy at some point. For them also, the inventory was not enough. And plus, we saw a lot of people moving in, right? So long story short, the sellers over expectations started increasing. The next property someone puts in 20,000 more than the last property. Another property comes in 50,000 over than the last property. The prices went up. And one, I would say the black truth I'll tell you guys, a lot of property in Florida was bought by the corporations, a lot of them, not just the Florida, in Texas. It says almost 20% or 30% of the properties were bought from the corporation, very big corporations, and they are started renting, right? So the idea for them is, buying, even the Zillow did so much buying, but their strategy was not to rent. Their strategy was to take an advantage of the market and sell. So I mean, if you hear the back end of the Zillow, they hire so many people at the time, and maybe their experience, whatever. I don't want to judge the company's behind the scenes structure, but definitely they made a mistake, by buying so many property and selling just in a few months, because they thought the property will go like this, right? But there's so much quantity they bought. Among them, a lot of them, they just sold after certain times. They realized, okay, no, we have to sell in whatever the price we get, coming to the reality. So Zillow is a big seller. Just imagine it's a big umbrella. They cannot hold those property if they see this is not going good for them, right? But there are certain percent of the property they sold to the corporations for the rentals. Rental company still making money. Even though they bought in a higher numbers, they're still making money because the rental market has been crazy up. If you haven't find the rental property and just seen the rental property right now in the market, check it out on Zillow, how it's increasing. Talk to your neighbor or talk to your friends who is living in a rent. Lot of landlords are increasing $500, $700 in, the property like 2-bedroom apartments, which is really high raise. And in Florida, there is no limitation. In some states, there's a limitation, only 10% of the rent you can increase every year. Here, like, people are just increasing whatever they want to. So that is kind of happening at this moment too. So everything is, if you see, it's action reactions of the market. And now suddenly when the interest rate went up, the buyers came to that confusion phase again. So May loan application was slow, but in June again came back. Okay, it's not completely low. So like baby boomers are still in the market who wants to buy, who are really understand the market, who wants to, kind of not living in a rent, paying the other people's mortgage versus getting for yourself. So that is kind of big change now in June we saw compared to May. So if you are, let's say, selling a property, another big change what we saw is definitely those over expectation which I explained you, that's coming on the ground. So because of the over expectation, as soon as the property were coming in a market, they were getting the next day 15 offers, 20 offers, and a lot of offers were cash offers. People were wondering where this cash is coming from, but those cash were coming from some of the corporations, and honestly people were financing though, but they're buying on cash. So if there is a cash right now in the market, why won't people buy right now? They don't have to worry about interest rate. They should not worry about the interest rate. They don't have to go into bidding wars. But now we saw the trend that people they're not too much cash in the market, which is good for first-time home buyers. The last market what we had in the pandemic time, it's really worse for the first-time home buyers. I was feeling very sorry for them, like we put so much good offers, but still we don't get the property. 0-day inspection. A lot of times we put a 0-day inspection and still we don't get the good property. So a lot of times people were just buying whatever the house, and they don't even see the upgrades and sight unseen properties. They don't even see physically. So those trends now coming back, like, onto the normal phase where, buyers are taking time to decide on property. So that's why days in a market has been increased. Before it was almost like in 30 days, you will see the properties are sold. And now in 30 days, I hardly see. Again, it depends on the area, okay? If the property is in really great city like Parkland Western, we still see the bidding wars, but compared to less. So sellers' expectations are coming on the ground, and that's why you see a lot of price drop happening at this moment. And that price drop is definitely its correlation to the a lot of buyers are thinking about and the backing out for temporary purpose, and at the same time the interest rate went up. That was the main reason they want to check out the market. So now main question comes, is this going on a crash or not? So that answer, I'm sure the media is making a lot of hype about it, and you would find a lot of article about the crash. But as a realtor, what I feel the inventory still hasn't increased that much, which can go into crash. So right now we do see like the change, right? So before we had a 1 week, 2 weeks inventory in certain areas. Now it has a 1 month. To go into crash, you got to have like more than 6 months or 7-8 months, inventory normally to get into that phase where people are are not buying enough properties and inventories keep increasing. So definitely the price drops are happening. I'm releasing some of the data where you see in a different counties how much price drop happened, what are the percentage. But if you compare the closed sales between 2021, 2022 quarterly, it's still the numbers hasn't been changed. So buyers are there, definitely is there, but how much percentage of buyers, that has been reduced, and that's why the bidding has been reduced, that's why the expectation has been reduced, that's why this uncertainty of getting the property has been reduced. Because before, like average for any buyer, we had to put almost 10 to 15 offers to get the one property, and a lot of times we even didn't get it, even though we put the competitive offer. Because my way of doing is I never push my clients to out of comfort zone. Okay, we never, of course, it's all about everybody thinks it's transaction things for the realtors, but my way of practice is I want to protect my buyers, I want to protect them, and I protect the comfort. And what market we were in, seller's market, it was so much uncertainty into the market, and a lot of buyers were scared, are we paying so much high that we are going to regret later on, and all those thought process that sometimes is very hard to control when you're buying the property like very high number. And trust me, definitely the price has been gone up. Now see, there was a time I was making the video around $500,000 house, you could buy something beautiful with the pool and with the all kind of amenities in the house and upgrades. Now you can buy 500,000 single family house, but depends on the area, depends on what the property is offering, may have a pool, may not have a pool, what's outdoor, so it's all various. So definitely that increase has already been done, and the peak level has been reached, and now from the peak it's coming a little bit lower. But is it going to be lower than what we were in pre-pandemic, or it's going to be way lower like how we were experiencing 2018 crash? That's a big question mark, and that's something I think we need to keep studying the market to tell about. But as a feel from the realtor, I don't think so that's coming. At least in next few months or few years, because unless it's a very big changes happens in a government, then people start thinking about it. Definitely affordability become a question, and that's why the property prices will not go as high as it went. So as a seller, if you want to sell a property, this is the time, because this is the maximum money you can get out of this market. Now you will see the trend, the prices will go down, definitely it will go down. But as I said, is it going to go down before, like as we were in pre-pandemic, before that number, or way lower than that number? Because even though we reached a pre-pandemic situation, that's still not a crash, that's still the settlement, what we were in. Because just understand, you like it or don't like it, I hate this what the Fed played the role. They should not have lowered this interest rate and triggered this artificial push, and this artificial push triggered a lot of corporation to buy a property, lot of them, and that one of the reason the market went really up this fast. Otherwise, this fast we never experienced in last 20 to 30 years how the raise happened. Every neighborhood felt that raise. It's not like just the one city or another city didn't feel. Almost everywhere we felt that feel. So if you want to buy or if you want to sell, talk to your real estate professionals. If you are one of them moving to Florida, talk to us. We will be giving you the honest opinion, what we feel, and depends on the situation. You guys can decide if you really want to take that trigger or pull that trigger or not. And if you are local and you want to sell property,